like, so how did we get to this point where like this level of like opacity is just sort of accepted? The 2008 crash was meant to be this moment where we suddenly realized how fraudulent banking was, and how they're all crooks, and that they are willing to just the whole thing with the 2008 crash, and the Big Short does a fantastic job of actually explaining what happened. And it wasn't just like a few banks taking risks. It was the entire system all complicitly together deciding that they were either going to ignore risks, or they were just going to like rubber stamp things. Or there's that scene where Mark Baums goes to the ratings agency, and she just goes, well, if we don't give them the AAA, they'll just go straight down the street to Moody's. And you're like, wow, like they're all just, it's
fine. She was wearing the really dark glasses because she had eye surgery. I love that. Whoever directed that did a great job. They're blind. They're blind by money. That's what it is. Plain and simple. They see it's like, what's the best way to put it? When there's a big bright light shown on like a very glamorous object, and you're just kind of blinded, you're stunned, and you're just petrified by beauty, essentially, of the allure of what you could be. You don't see that it might be sitting on a giant pile of dog crap. Because you're blind, you can't see it. And so that's what happened in that instance. And that's what that is a cycle that, if you look at human history, has repeated countless times and time again. You bite off more than you can chew, and you're not assessing. This term is pretty common in the financial market. You're not assessing risk logically. You're emotionally now fixated on the idea of making a crud ton of money, which is what happened. Before 2008, there were people like in The Big Short does a great job, man. They were buying multiple homes. People were taking, $100 million bonus checks. Institutions were making hand over fist record numbers until they don't. And ultimately, who does the weight of that burden really fall on? It falls on the majority, which in this case is not financial institutions. It's the working class, people. It was the backbone of America.
Yeah, well, it was the taxpayer money that bailed them out ultimately. The next thing I'm curious to get onto is, like, there's been over the last couple of months, there's been a lot of accusations. I'm trying to compile as many of them as I can of like shills on Reddit, like spread and FUD. That the joke is that it's like a whole bunch of hedge fund interns just being whipped by their bosses to buy Reddit accounts and go on and tell everyone to sell. And the story of what people believe the shills are saying just by itself is fascinating. Like, everyone is like, no one knows who's real. No one can tell who's spreading FUD, who's being like a I don't know, who's trying to just be realistic. And the something that I was watching a fantastic podcast with Brett Weinstein and Jordan Peterson. And I can't remember if it was on which one of their shows it was on, because they did like a swap thing recently. But I got the quote here. And Jordan Peterson said, a phenomenon that has recently emerged from the increase in online community interactions is a seeming abundance of acute paranoia. One of the causes may lie in the ability to hyper-select communities themselves. At your weakest point psychologically, you choose the least demanding compatriots, and so your craziest ideas are the least likely to be challenged. And I thought that was a fantastic assessment. And he was talking nothing to do with GameStop, but I think it speaks to this idea that the community can become like almost like hyper paranoid, like he says, that we're anything that's like questioning the narrative, like people, like someone will say, oh, it's a shill, it's the hedge funds. But at the same time, like right around the spike of the first peak in January, there was like a monstrous peak in Google searches about how to buy a Reddit account. So that's coming from somewhere. Like, someone is trying to get onto Reddit with accounts that seem like legitimate people, and for whatever reason, like, draw whatever conclusions you want, but that was real. So like, how paranoid do you think the community has got or how accurate do you think they are in identifying people just spreading FUD, like fear, uncertainty, doubt, if anyone doesn't know what that is?
I think I would say incredibly, because what's at stake here? People's money. Anytime people's money are at stake, what's the quickest way to get somebody to be like hyper protective mama bear mode? Mess with their money. Mess with someone's money, and you will see all of their principles hit the fan, and they come out, guns loaded, beast ready. That's anytime you mess with someone's money, that's just what happens. So I think, yeah, the Reddit community is hyper focused on finding the shills and destroying them. They're like white blood cells that just went AWOL, and they're just like eating everything, destroying everything in the system. They're like, it's like an active lysome that just like went just ham and just like, nope, you're a shill, eat. And it's a dangerous. I think it's a good thing, because what it does is the people that are wanting to challenge the shield, the potential imposters, will scrutinize and look at every single word in that statement. That like, that's the thing about written correspondence. Your statement is very clear. There's no room for backtracking, backpedaling. It's all there. It's said. You can pick apart someone's statement very logically. So if they're not a shill, they will expound and they will continue to have the dialogue until they get to the point of both of them acknowledging what the truth in the situation is. If they are a quote unquote shill, they're just going to keep, bashing and, sell, blah, 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 blah. I'm not a shill, but blah, 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 sell. And it will become very obvious to everyone on the forum, okay, yeah, that's definitely a shill. And the cool thing about Reddit is the up and down vote element. So it becomes a game of again, numbers. How many accounts are legitimate versus how many are not, and can you justify the legitimacy of a statement based on its upvote to downvote ratio, or even further, the context of the discussion. And one big question to ask in all this is, do you have the time? So as an individual, personally, like I love Reddit, and I love what it offers in terms of value. It's a great place, but you have to learn how to use that beast. You have to learn. There's definitely some training wheels to be had when browsing Reddit your first couple months, and as you continue to journey into it, especially with what's going on now. Because I personally would not put it past, again, if you have an abundance of resources, why not justify paying a bunch of interns, all right, guys, how can we save some tax money? Well, if we, create an internship program, hire a bunch of kids, turn it into a little sweatshop of Reddit posts, essentially, we can claim that on our taxes as funding education. And then we get all these kids who know how to use these things, because we don't, to interact with this community and to spread misinformation to hopefully better our positions. It's not an unlikely idea. It's really not. Putting myself in that situation, if I had all those resources, hey, that's a good way to justify a tax saving. That saves money for the company in the long run. And, if anything, it just slows the beast down. It's the beast of what's going on in Reddit, what's going on in information flow. But there is also one thing that I don't think anyone is looking for. And this was an interaction that I had with a few OTC companies that were, interestingly enough, trying to get me to highlight their company. Everyone out there, be very careful about promises from penny stocks and if anyone that's not AMC or GME makes this claim, I'm gonna look at them with a microscope to see what's been going on in their financial history. But anyone that is an OTC claiming that you should buy their stock, or that there is an imminent short squeeze that's going to happen to that penny stock or that OTC, be very, very careful. Be very, very, very careful. That screams to me fraud. And there is instances where I'm now finding, personally, I've, CEOs and individuals have approached me wanting me to highlight their company, even maybe not CEOs, maybe it's the friend of a CEO, so it's not as directly traceable. There's a lot of interesting things that companies themselves are doing to try to capitalize on what happened with GameStop, because GameStop now no longer abides by fundamentals. GameStop is pretty pumped. It's got a lot of money in it now. And so there's a lot of, allure in that idea of, ooh, maybe I can be the next GameStop. Ooh, I can imagine the profits we could take if we got, viral like GameStop. That's kind of the idea that some of these companies are having. So I really encourage people, as they continue to get into the stock market and you go from, analysis of publicly traded companies that are on, NASDAQ and that are, big companies that are vetted, be careful venturing into the OTC and the penny stock world, because there will be a lot of bold claims from these companies. And it is a very high risk, high reward area where if you're not experienced in being able to spot fraudulent financials and just weird track records and weird claims and strange interactions with shareholder meetings, you might get the veil pulled over your head and you'll lose some money.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, follow me on Twitter, or sign up to our mailing list. Thanks a lot to our sponsor, ExpressVPN, the #1 most trusted VPN. Get lightning fast connectivity with servers in 160 locations across 94 countries. Keep your browsing privacy safe with ExpressVPN and get a 35% discount on 12 months of ExpressVPN when you follow the link in the description below. Don't forget my book is now out and available to order on Amazon and on bookshop.org. That's Brexit, the Establishment Civil War. And most importantly, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.